Hi everyone, I'm Steve.
And I'm Mary.
And welcome to Our Life V3.
In this video, we share the highlights from the second half of March of our 2025 World Cruise on the MSC Magnifica.
Our first stop was in Eden, New South Wales, Australia. Here we chose to take a private tour of the area. Our guide started this tour of Twofold Bay by driving us out to Boyds Tower. Benjamin Boyd originally made this tower to be a landmark by day and a lighthouse by night, but never got approval to operate it as a lighthouse, so it became a whale spotting tower by the Davidson family.
Wow. Huh. Yeah, I could really see the vantage point of this tower. After we left there, we went to the Davidson whaling station and family home. It was established in 1896, and I guess the Davidson family had a pretty big whaling operation there.
They told us stories about how they would hunt whales, and they had this kind of natural thing with the orcas. The orcas would help drive the whales into the land. We would then capture them and then feed the livers or kidneys back to the orcas. And of course, walking through the trees, we hear all kinds of bird sounds.
Next, we went to Quarantine Beach.
I think one of the coolest things about this area for us was it really had that New Zealand sort of sense to it. Our guide actually had a boat docked out at Quarantine Bay that he had received from somebody.
He also fed us a really lovely lunch.
Yeah, just some really good grapes and some excellent brownies, a little bit of sandwich stuff.
Flavors. Are they different flavors?
One's good and one's really good.
You know, one thing that we did see while we were out and about was some tea trees.
The tea trees that make the tea tree oil.
It reminded me of like our old Osage orange, but it wasn't as evil. It didn't have all those spikes.
We took out from there and went out to the Pinnacles Loop Walking Track.
All right.
Yep, sounds good.
Oh my God, a kilometer. What is this, my stress test?
Just a nice, pleasant walk out toward the beach.
This is cool.
Pinnacles were really just this multicolored kind of clay-looking cliff area, right?
Yeah, definitely you could see the sedimentation layers. It kind of had a white, I don't know if it was limestone or sand that was down at the bottom, but and then it kind of went into an orangey looking, it looked like sandstone above.
What's really cool is walking through that area, we saw all kinds of foliage, flora, fauna, different things.
This is a Banksia plant. These are cool lads. If you get a really old seedy one, the seeds are half open on them. Here we go. And there's this famous Australian artist, I can't remember, Eden Blyton her name is, and she does these children's stories called Snuggle Pie and Cuddle Pie, and uses all these native seeds and flowers to make little people and stuff. And of course that's a bad guy with his many faces.
They look like little trolls or little cousin it on plants. They were really kind of fun looking. Pretty cool.
Then we saw some huge termite mounds as we walked out, or what they have as white ants. Just large mounds.
Yeah, I think they were as tall as me, and they actually are double that size in other areas of Australia.
We kept pretty busy this month with doing a lot of onboard activities and celebrations. Our first real celebration was St. Patrick's Day, or more importantly, Mary's birthday.
Woo!
After the birthday dinner, we went out and they had Jason Dean and the Piano Man Band, which is a pretty famous little group that does an Elton John tribute from Australia.
Yeah, they were really good.
Yeah, they brought them on just for you and your birthday.
Yeah, I'm sure they did. The next day we landed in Melbourne, Victoria.
Here we decided to do the e-bike tour that Mary had found. And what an exciting time that was. I mean, first off, I really am thoroughly enjoying the e-bikes. It gives you that extra boost where you're enjoying yourself, but you're not as stressed as when you're biking. So it really makes the trip much more enjoyable.
Yeah, I see e-bikes in our future.
Our guide was so excited about Melbourne and telling us about it, and you could just see he was passionate about his area and his city. He showed us the Royal Exhibition building, all through the main areas. One of the areas he took us through was, I guess they had Olympics there at some point, but they had just tons of venues for different kinds of sports. He told us all about how the Australians love to bet on anything sport.
It sure is funding a lot of activities and buildings and nice sites for everybody to visit.
But while doing the bike, we just really thoroughly enjoyed going through the city, the parks, the trails. I mean, they really put a lot of work into the city to make it artistic, family-oriented.
It was a really nice-looking city.
Drove to another area of town, Hoosier Lane, where they allow people just to do their street graffiti. Quite artistic people there.
Yeah, very much so. And it actually was nice that they had a street that was just set aside for it because it kept the rest of the town cleaner.
Finishing up the bike tour, we just did a little bit of walking around the city, over through a mall, and took a tram back to the ship. It was very enjoyable.
The next day we went to Adelaide, which was in South Australia. Okay, so we started off at 8 o'clock this morning. Well, actually, it's a little bit before 8 to go kayaking at the Dolphin Sanctuary here in Adelaide. What are you doing? And it was canceled.
So we got with our table mates and we took a train into town to a very old 1800s train station.
Yeah, it was a really kind of cool looking train station. It kind of had that Eastern United States Grand Central Station type of feel. Not as large by any means, but it had that vibe going.
Took a walk into town to the Adelaide Central Market. This market started back in 1869 with a couple vendors, and it's grown to where there's always 80 or more vendors just hanging out selling everything from fruit, flowers, wares, leather, nuts, just it's almost like a, I don't know, it's
maybe a street market?
Like a street market? Yeah.
No, it was actually fun just to walk around it, and oh my god, the fruit looks so good. I would have loved to have just spent the day there just trying everything, but unfortunately we didn't have that amount of time.
Next to it was Chinatown, so of course you had to walk around Chinatown and look at all the fun, the decorations and the colors.
Yeah, we decided to do so. It was kind of interesting. I think we only went a block or two. We didn't do the entire thing.
Some of the group wanted to do more shopping, so they went toward a mall, but Mary and I took off for the South Australian Museum.
Yeah, there they had the Aboriginal history and the history of migration into and around Australia.
A lot of Tahitian masks and different areas of people that brought into the Aboriginal culture and how it was founded, and it was really cool to see.
Yeah, this is the first time I've seen a map of all of the tribes of Australia. I should have realized that there were so many of them. It was pretty extensive.
Yeah.
At the museum, they also had a taxidermy animals from around the world. That guy in the back. There's a big, cute guy in the back.
Yeah, he's the basking shark, right?
Look at that big guy back there with the orangey.
I caught one of those on my island.
And you put them in the museum.
I'm going to put them in my pocket first.
Oh. So back on board, I started some calligraphy lessons with some friends.
She's the star pupil.
I am not, but it's fun. It's a good thing to do because we have a lot of sea days coming up.
The next day we arrived in Pinnacles, the city on Kangaroo Island, and here we got to walk through the Kangaroo Island Sculpture Trail. It's a pretty easy small trail, less than a mile, very easy on the hills with an overlook of a beach. But what made it neat was the sculptures that have been added and contributed from the local community.
Yeah, some of it was, some were really kind of cool. Like they had sculptures of orchids, and they had a really neat looking owl.
Some of it was just weird. They had like pieces of metal with sayings cut in it, like Bob lived here. He walked on this land. And you're like, why? What was the point of that?
So it was kind of a fun trail to go through and just go explore.
From there, we walked along Hog Bay. Have no idea why it was called Hog Bay, but it was beautiful. You could see the different layers to the land as it went down to the sea. Just a very enjoyable walk next to the seashore. Of course, then it was time to go over to our actual excursion for the day. Mary signed us up for the Kangaroo Island Ocean Safari, and here we were supposed to snorkel with dolphins and seals. We had no idea what we were in for.
No, we did not.
First off, I will say the water was beautiful, but extremely cold.
Woo, it's cold.
Yeah, it's cold.
It is cold. Woo! Yeah, thank goodness they provided wetsuits for all of us because we needed them. Woo!
So we got taken out on a boat. There was, 20 of us or so. And they throw a line in the water with some floats on it, and they tell us all to jump in the water. They're going to drag us behind the boat holding onto a line and hopefully entice the dolphins to come up and play with us.
Yeah, as soon as they see kind of like a pod of dolphins, we're going to tell you, let go of the line and swim toward the dolphins. Took us maybe 4 times to actually get it right, and at one point in time the captain was like, I just give up.
And I gotta say, it was not easy holding a rope with one hand, holding a camera with the other hand, and being drugged by a boat with the people in front of you kicking you with their flippers.
Yeah, but it was fun.
Seals, 0. Dolphins, 0. Temperature, 0.
Fortunately, the dolphins did come and play. They swam up beside us and under us and got a couple really good shots of them playing. And it's really freaking out when you all of a sudden got a pod of 10 dolphins swimming under your feet. And it's like, ooh.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. We also did see some seals. And
you saw seals, huh?
Yeah, I just didn't know how close to get to them, so I stayed about 10 feet away is the closest I got. And unfortunately, I was watching them play above the water more than under the water. I should have really been paying more attention under the water because I think there was some action going on there, and I kept taking the camera. I'm a bad camera person with that.
You're
but
a good
hey,
person.
you know, we got seals and dolphins. Good day.
Our next stop was Albany in Western Australia. There were no excursions that really grabbed our attention, so we took a look at the maps and Mary found a good couple hikes for us to go on.
Yeah, we went up to Mount Clarence, and they had an avenue of honored all the Australian soldiers, and they planted Eucalyptus robusta trees.
And we had no idea at the top of the hill they had a monument.
It was an Australian mounted army infantryman.
Pulling along a New Zealand infantryman out of the mud or something?
Yeah, I think his horse got stuck in the mud. And I think that was the Desert Mounted Corpse Memorial was the name of it.
After hiking up this hill, getting a good elevation into it, it had a beautiful lookout looking over where the ship was and some other areas. And even when you thought you were at the top of it, there was a whole nother stage level you could go up to that gave you an even better view out. So
we had views during that walk of King George's Sound, Ellen Cove.
We came down the other side a little bit over to Apex Lookout, which looked over a beach in the cove again. Rounded the other side of the mountain where we got really stunning views of the Gull Rock and Middleton Beach. And we ran into the National Anzac Center.
Yeah, we did not realize that we were at the National Anzac Center, but all of a sudden there were like this fortress cannons and everything else. And there were like doors just in the middle.
Dog doors from ships where they had. So it turns out like this was a launching point for World War I ships going into battle from Australia. It was a nice piece of history. It was nice to see, and we got a really decent. I think it was like a 10-mile walk in around the hill, wasn't it?
I don't think it was that far, but hey, it was a good day.
It was a great day.
Yeah. So back on the ship,
that where
I think
Cousin
you
Nick came
started
from?
ukulele lessons.
I bought a ukulele 3 years ago and never really did anything to learn it. So here they were offering some ukulele lessons. It might be a long time before I learn the ukulele at this point.
Yeah, but you have a lot of sea days coming up, and so you're going to have a lot of ukulele lessons. Wow, I think you're going to be playing that ukulele in no time, and you and Carol, our friend Carol, are doing that together. That's fun.
For our next stop, we went to Busselton in Western Australia. Busselton's famous for its jetty, which was a pier that they built back in 1865. And honestly, it's fun and it's long, and it goes 1.8 kilometers out into the ocean and has a underwater observatory and an interpretive center at the end. It's got a train that runs in it. It was fun getting to walk down there and seeing above the water. And anyway, we went to the pier and did a walk around. It was nice to see before going back into town and starting our MSC tour.
Right, we purchased a MSC tour and that went out to the Cape Naturalist Lighthouse.
Which we know absolutely nothing about other than there's a lighthouse.
Yeah, there's a lighthouse out there, and there are tons of flies. These flies are wicked flies that try to blind you.
Ugh.
When we left the lighthouse, we went to Nilgi Cave.
Another cavern reminded us a lot of like some of the caverns we had seen in the U.S. It was about 800 steps from the top to the bottom. And I'm not sure how long it was, but you could have easily spent an hour exploring the cave.
Yeah, they only gave us an hour, and we had to rush through it. We didn't quite make it all the way through. Unfortunately, one of our friends on board missed a step and ended up breaking his shoulder.
So we gave a little bit of aid in helping him get back up. And since the ship wasn't leaving till later, we had a little extra time, and the guide was kind enough to offer taking us past Dunsborough, where there's a field full of kangaroos.
Yep, so we saw some more kangaroos. We didn't exit the vehicle to get any pictures, but we got a few pictures from the bus itself.
Arriving back at the jetty, too late for dinner on the ship and not wanting to fight that, we met our table mates at the Shelter Brewing Company and enjoyed some really good burger.
Yeah, it was good, and it was a beautiful sunset out over the beach.
I got to try a ginger beer, which was quite tasty.
Good food, and then back to the ship. One of the evenings, they actually had the theater group put on ABBA.
The two lead girl singers did a fantastic job singing the ABBA songs and hits.
It was in their wheelhouse.
For our final stop in Western Australia, we entered the harbour of Fremantle. Fremantle's the gateway over to Perth and the capital of Western Australia, and we got to spend 2 days here. On day one, we rented a pickup truck because our intention was to go see some of the real lively night stars. We were just heading toward this park, and all of a sudden there's a sign that says home of the koalas, and we're like, ooh, gotta stop.
Yeah, it's like, how many of us have seen koalas? Nobody? We're going.
We pulled in, paid our entry fee to it, and the guide said, oh, you've got to go get your koalification by seeing all four of the koalas we have.
Yeah, and we did. We saw all four, so now we're qualified.
Yes.
For something.
They are so cute, and they're just adorable sitting there. It was hot. It had to have been like 104 degrees Fahrenheit outside that day, or at least 100. And the koalas were clinging in their trees near where there was some water spray going and just enjoying a nice misting in the afternoon. And just outside that area, they had a whole bunch of different birds. We got to see some cockatoos and some purple swans.
Yeah, that was a great stop. We left Yanchep National Park and headed up toward Nambung National Park in the Pinnacles Desert. Here they have hundreds of limestones that are just sticking out of the sand up there.
It's freaky. It looks like some terrain that you've never seen before. Just all these little rocks sticking straight up in the air. I was thinking when they said pinnacles, we were going to see like towering mounds, but they're all like 3 foot to 10 foot tall.
I think some of them are taller than that, but the majority of them were not very tall.
Again, the western flies of Australia were all over the place.
And it was hot. But you know what was really cool about it is we had our pickup, and it was a 4-wheel drive pickup, so we were able to drive through all of the pinnacles and pull over and get pictures where we wanted to.
The ship's excursion, by comparison, got dropped off at the visitor center, and they had to walk out as far as they could into the heated desert by foot. Did not get to see anywhere near what we got to see.
Yeah, I can't even imagine with all of those flies there, and it was just hot and dry. Oh, wow, you even saw an emu.
I hopped out of the car and gave chase, not like running after it, but following it. And when I got close enough to get a decent picture of it, it raised its head out of the bush and looked at me like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, that was a really cool stop. Right, so we headed south toward the Gravity Center, and we stopped at Endeavor Tavern and watched the sunset and had some really good, what did we have? Chicken burgers, I think.
Oh yeah, chicken burgers and fries were really good. And just a beautiful, nice sunset over the ocean watching it.
Yeah, beautiful.
We took off from there and went up to the Gravity Center and was all ready to see the stars. And right as we pulled in, it was closed. That was rather disappointing, but we sat outside of the gate and looked up at the stars, and they were beautiful.
Yeah, we could see the Milky Way very easily.
Yeah. And after a while of that and cars crossing by, we decided we would give it another chance and go back toward Yanchep and see if we could get some light there. They were not as good from there. There was a lot of car traffic and a little light pollution from the city below, but it was still nice seeing them.
Day 2, we decided that we would spend a little bit more time and drive around Fremantle and also in Perth. So we went down to the Roundhouse. But it was interesting. It was the oldest building in Western Australia. So it was, it's got some history to it, and it was nice and cool in it too.
Then we took a drive up to Perth and we visited the King's Botanical Gardens. Really wonderful grassy knoll overlooking Perth. You could walk by fields of trees and over a glass bridge and just get some really incredible shots of Perth.
As we were leaving the Botanical Gardens, we had noticed this kind of spiral-looking tower. And it was like, oh, what is that? It looks like people are kind of climbing it. So we went over to it, and it was a DNA tower.
Yeah, they made a twin set of stairs going up 100 and something stairs to called it the DNA tower. It gave you a nice look over the park, so it was fun.
No.
Leaving there, we drove over to Cotslow Beach because we wanted to dip our toesies in the water of the Indian Ocean.
Yeah, that's some nice beach there.
How's it feel?
Feels good. Feels cold.
As we drove back toward town, it was time to get the car back. We passed the Rainbow Containers because it was a shipping port for Western Australia. And then went back into town to drop the car and do just a tinge more shopping before we start our 7-day crossing over to Mali.
So finishing out the month, we actually have had quite a few sea days, so I think about 4 through the end of March. We were really kind of concerned how we were going to keep ourselves entertained. So we continued with the ukulele lessons and the calligraphy lessons. We also attempted to take the Italian lessons that they were teaching on board.
It really wasn't our learning style. They did a great job trying to do it, but it was one of those heavy immersion Italian guy only speaking Italian.
And then, of course, they had another dance party and with pie night and ice cream. Mm-hmm. I would say that was more of a tarts than pie.
Yeah.
It was okay.
But we found a pie with strawberries on top of it, and you know our love of strawberries. We jumped on that.
Yeah, that was very good.
The ship does all kinds of things to keep the entertainment flowing during the day. One of them is a lady named Allison gives different talks about the history of an area, so we attend those as often as we can. That was basically the end of the month. We're on our way to Mali Maldives.
Coming up, we visit the Maldives and Seychelles.
Madagascar.
Yeah, and even some more of Africa as we cruise our way back to Italy.
Well, thanks for watching and staying with us.
As always, feel free to reach out with questions and comments.
Stay safe, everybody, and take care.